Well, it certainly did interrupt my life. I had a period afterwards when I didn't think I could meet any goals, but it was something that I'm told by the doctors is very normal. And my entire goal was to integrate this experience into my life, not be identified by it, and to move forward, to get my normal life back as much as possible.
I was very shocked. There was no history of cancer in my family that I knew about, but as all of us know, a lot of people didn't talk about cancer. I think it was the year Betty Ford was diagnosed, and she went public, as you probably remember, and that was a very big thing. But I remember calling up and having to wait a week or so, which is very unusual. And it was because Betty Ford had just gone public and women were rushing to get mammograms for the first time.
My daughter was scared to death. She thought, oh my God, my mom's gonna die. And she's the light of my life, and I didn't want her to be scared. And it was a senior year of high school, and she had all these things planned. And then I started thinking, I have to get well. I have to figure out the best way to do this so that I can be there to see her graduate, to get her through college, to see her get married, and then she'll be all right.
Well, I did participate in a clinical trial, and I did get the strongest, randomly chosen, I did get the strongest arm of the study. But it was important to me to participate, to make a difference. But what was incredibly important to me is I had to show my kids and my husband, my family, that I would do anything to beat this thing.
Frank, my husband, was terrified, and he was strong. This was a real blow, but it was certainly something that he saw that I needed real support with, and his attitude was, we'll get through this together. And that became my attitude as well.
The biggest support I had was from my husband, David, who's is a very caring and someone who has a lot to give and is very calm. So he was my really basic support.
During my treatment, Michael was trying to support us, Jesse and I. And after treatment had finished, Michael and I decided to go our separate ways. And to this day, 6 years later, Michael is such a supporter of Living Beyond Breast Cancer. We're still wonderful friends and see each other all the time. And I look back on those days and I couldn't have gotten through it without him.
My husband, Bob, who was absolutely fantastic, participated in every single step. He was my absolute rock. He would graph my blood work results, my white cell count, my red cell count, all the important blood work results. And he did it in color. He's an engineer. And he handed it in to my oncologist every 3 weeks. He handed in this lovely graph.
I have no family of my own, and it's my husband's family that's my family now. I have many friends. Every one of them came through for me. All of my friends were upset, frightened, upset. I am the first person in my group of friends to have had a life-threatening disease, except for one. They quickly turned from being upset to being, what can I do? How can I help?
My daughter was extremely helpful. She was in the city. Jean has always been very able to look at the whole picture, and she understands. She understood exactly what was going on. Our son, Paul, was very hard for him to deal with it. He found it very difficult. He and He found it very difficult to talk about. He tried. He came to see me, certainly, and he was certainly there for me, but I think he was wishing it would go away. The friends who were there. I could call them at any time and say, I need to go out. I think people really support one another mostly by just being there. If you want to go out to lunch and you want to go and do something, you want to go out to a movie, and you want somebody just to spend the afternoon with you. Because once again, at that time, people were not so open, and that's not who I am.
Explaining the diagnosis to my children was very hard. After they understood, we didn't go into a tremendous amount of detail, and we waited for them to ask questions. And they were all very involved. They were all very supportive. They saw what was going on. They understood many of the ramifications. And they did really, really well.
My younger sister, who lived in Buffalo and had 2 young children, gave up 2 weeks of every month for 6 months, and her husband took care of their life so that she could come and take care of me and my life and my daughter. After I started volunteering with Living Beyond Breast Cancer, Marisa and Jean Sachs, our executive director, said, maybe we would do some sort of a focus group or get a group of women together. And I started telling my story about how I wish that there was some way we could match people up with similar diagnosis so that you could relate to each other so much better. And then we started talking about how that would work, and then the helpline sort of came about, and we thought, well, maybe on the phone we could match people up.
I wanted to give back. I hope that doesn't sound too hokey, but I wanted to give back. Becoming involved in the helpline was giving back instead of giving up. They almost always say that sometimes they've called other organizations, but they almost always say that this is the only organization they've called where somebody took them seriously, that they could talk to for as long as they wanted to on a one-on-one basis with someone who's had breast cancer. And that gives them information that they can actually use.
Working on the helpline, I get calls from women all over the country. All ages, all socioeconomic areas, all very unique set of problems and difficulties and triumphs. And it is an incredible experience. I feel very, very strongly about their mission of outreach and education. It's the answer. This is how we're going to survive longer. This is how we're going to live better.
Well, the way I've done it with Living Beyond Breast Cancer is just by strongly suggesting that they get in touch, sometimes taking people over there. I send them to LBBC because I think that they will get a wide range of options that are available to them. They'll have somebody very knowledgeable to talk to them. They'll also get a kind of a built-in support group if they don't have it. And then there are all these activities that they can participate in. It's just a wonderful resource.
It is very scary when you hear about all the recurrences out there. And it's wonderful to get up in front of a group of women and saying, it's been 9 years for me. I've loved to hear other women saying, it's 20 years for me. It gives us such incredible hope. This is a club. A lot of women are in it. People don't get it unless they're part of the club. It's not anything we ever asked for, but boy, it's an amazing group.
Well, I'm still here. I can't remember when. A lot has happened since '87. I have 3 grandchildren now. I was diagnosed with lung cancer 2 years ago. I did have surgery. I didn't have chemotherapy. It's being followed. That certainly has changed my life, but I'm trying to live every day as best I can.
I was really shocked. I had a chest wall metastasis and had bone scans and CAT scans and that sort of thing, that they found metastases on my spine and ribs. To most people, mortality, their own mortality is abstract. And Mine is no longer. But the way I look at the world is to live as fully in every day as I possibly can.
I'm so lucky to be a 10-year survivor. I'm so lucky that I can spread the word and that my daughter can look at me and say, my mom's made it 10 years. Everyone in the world knows someone who has had breast cancer, and this is the place they should call.